is food for thought topic is becoming your best. So, God, what a crazy week I've had. I mean, literally nutty crazy. And so I've been thinking an awful lot about. Yeah, I've been wanting to read this book called Miracle Mile. I'll just kind of anchor my comments around that. So I usually have a pretty solid morning practice. You know, I get up in the morning and I read something and I pray and I write and I exercise. And over the past 18 months, that ritual has kind of been chipped away at. And I've noticed how it's taken a toll on me. So one of the things that I'm working on right now is really making sure that I get back to those practices. So I thought, you know, nothing like anchoring myself with a book. So Hal Elrod wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, and it's just basically a guide so far. I mean, I've just started it. It's a guide to kind of structure your mornings. And he uses the acronym SAVERS. And the acronym stands for silence. I'm going to go back on my silence, affirmations, visualization, reading, scribing, and exercise. And you can basically take those things and order them however you want. So how I've always done it is I read something, then I pray, and then I do affirmations, and then I use a visualization tool like a vision board, and then I write, and then I exercise. So I think it's pretty interesting because Hal has been very successful with this book, and it really is age-old, tried and true kind of mindset setting. So if you're interested in doing that with me, over the next 13 weeks, I will be posting in my Micalizzi Enterprises page about my process, and on Mondays at 7 o'clock, between 7 and 7:45. So if you want to kind of follow along with the book and have your own experience and then check in with me on a Monday morning, I'd love to have you. You can basically search on Facebook for Miracle Morning with Michelle, and there's an event, and I'll be posting little reminders and maybe worksheets. I don't know, as the 13 weeks go on, I'll see what I can post in there to kind of get us all memory jogging, because I don't think these practices are any different than writing morning pages. Is what I've been doing for years. I read a book called The Artist's Way, and that had very huge impact on me. And a couple of years ago, I stopped writing with my hands because my home was broken into and my journals were photographed, and it just left a real mark, as it was meant to. It was meant to leave a mark on me. Journaling has always been a piece of my puzzle. When I was a kid, from the time I was 5 until the time I was 39, I kept a journal. And 5 years ago, I shredded all those journals. And that's kind of what led me to start making art again. But I think what happened was, after I shredded those journals, my new journals were infiltrated, and I never really got over that. So I've started writing with my hands again this week, and I think it's really important practice to actually physically pick up a pencil. For me, this is my dad's pencil, which is really significant to me. It was in his acheté case. I will never not have this pencil, and I like using the little pencil things, and start writing again. So I've been getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I've been reading for 20 minutes. And so far this week, I've been collecting my affirmations and creating my vision board. And then I am writing for 20 minutes, and then I'm getting on my bike. Now, every morning I have a meeting at 5:15 in the morning, and I check in with one of my power partners, Sharon Bondront, and I are checking in with each other every morning to kind of make sure we stay on task right now. Both of us are at turning points in our business, and so we were wanting to stay on task. So I'm checking in with her from the bike, and then I'm checking my to-do list and making sure that my to-do list for the day is consolidated. It's one of the practices that I've started to do several years ago, was making sure that I had today's to-do list, a manageable to-do list, because our to-do list can just go on and on and on and on. So I've been creating a manageable to-do list. And so I've been thinking about, you know, for this conversation, did a little research about becoming yourself. And, I love it when you Google stuff because you can just get some ideas that are going to jog your memory. And I'll tell you some of the things that came up. One of the things that one of the articles said was be true to character. I think that's so smart. I think if you're not being true to character, something gets lost, something gets seriously lost. And I've noticed for me that when I'm allowing stuff to go on in my life that's not true to my own character, and I'm kind of moving the line in the sand, that I pay a big price for it. And so for me, character is super important. It's a real super important piece of it. Leading with vision came up a lot. I definitely have a vision for my life. And, it always comes up that, Michelle, you should focus on one thing. And it always makes me laugh because I am focusing on one thing. I live a very balanced life. And over again, when I was reading about becoming yourself, it was talking about balance and peace. I think we spend a little bit too much time trying to package ourselves one thing so we can sell our widget, when none of us are one thing. All of us have interests and concerns and family and things that are going on in our life that we want to spend time with. And I don't think they're less important than that one widget that's our lead revenue generator. And I never really want to have one revenue generator. I really like the idea of having multiple revenue generators. I think today's time right now with COVID-19 is a perfect example of how it's a mistake to have all your eggs in one basket. And so my one thing is being a polypreneur. That's my one thing. And to be an example of what that looks like. Some of my streams of revenue are network marketing. Some of my streams of revenue are around sponsorship for Relentless Talk Radio. Other parts of my revenue are around coaching. I've just started a new Coach with Mick program focusing just on fitness professionals. I am a hodgepodge of things, and so therefore my revenue is a hodgepodge of things, and I don't really want to focus on just one thing. And I'm sure that slows down my progress. I'm sure of it. But that idea of going back to being true to your character and true to yourself, I've never been just one thing. So why would my business look like that? So the other thing, the other things that came up was reject what's not for you. I remember in one of the interviews that I had recently last year with one of the folks I interviewed was that he wanted to reject the people that were not a good fit for him. And initially I thought, as a customer, well, that's kind of aggressive. But when I think about it, having the wrong customer is super expensive. Recently, I partnered with somebody who wasn't the right fit and was able to pull back from that fit before it got too expensive. But one of the reasons why I'm able to do that is I know that if you have one bad egg in the barrel, then it really does taint the rest of it, So making sure that you reject what's not for you in your business and your personal life is just a good idea. And sometimes it takes trying stuff out to decide whether or not something is for you or not. Sometimes you don't know something's for you until you've tried it. You've tried a job, you've tried a product, you've moved in a certain direction. Sometimes you have to try it to know for sure if it's not going to work out for you. Practice came up. You can't ever get good at something without practicing. I love people who say, well, I'm not good at that. Well, you're not good at that, whatever that thing is, because you don't practice it. And the only way to practice it is to do it and go through the uncomfortableness of not knowing what the outcome's going to be and actually potentially fail. It's important to practice so you can get better at something, but also it's important to practice so you can fail. And I've heard it said, fail faster. I definitely believe that's true. When you can fail faster and get the lesson quicker, then you can move on to the next lesson, right? Other things that came up are decide what you want. I am super clear at this stage in my life what I'm looking for in every area of my life. I know, hello, Paul Watkins, practice makes perfect, or kind of, sometimes we hope, but before you get perfect, you have an awful lot of messes, you know what I mean? It's just the way it goes, right? Deciding what you want is super important too. Like, I know exactly what I want at this point in my life. I'm 53, I've bumped along. I've had a couple false starts in my life. And I think that just like Edison talks about the light bulb, I didn't find 10,000 ways to not make the light bulb. I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways not to make the light bulb so I could find the one way that works. And I think that part of trying to figure out what's for you and becoming your best is failing. That's part of it. And I think that if you haven't failed, if you haven't had your heart broken, if you haven't lost money, if you haven't moved in the wrong direction, then you're not trying hard enough, quite frankly. And you're living it too safe. And I don't ever want to live an ordinary life where safe is the only route. You know, I want the bigs in life. And so in order to get the bigs, you have to kind of put your neck out there a little bit, your heart out there too. The power of attraction. I think this, as I'm reading through affirmations this week, I'm really very aware of the energy that happens when you call to yourself the things that you would want to attract. And as I'm saying these affirmations out loud in the morning, I realize that I haven't been doing it enough. So it's a super powerful practice. Oh my God, release the brakes. Jack Canfield talks about in his 12 principles of successful people, talks about releasing the brakes. I think sometimes we spend an awful lot of time with our foot on the brakes because we're so afraid of making a mistake or falling down or having people judge us that we keep conservative. We keep our foot in the brake. But it's just like when you're riding a motorcycle. I remember when I was first riding, I had a friend that I rode with, and he used to say to me, Michelle, I can't wait till you get into that turn and you hit the gas rather than the brakes. I remember thinking to himself, I don't know how you can hit the gas right at that point. It's just so scary. But I remember the first day that I hit the gas on the curve, and I took the long way around the curve, and I was able to, just hit the gas in the right spot, and the momentum of the bike just took me around, that I went, oh, that's what he meant. And that's how it is in life. If you spend your life with your foot on the brakes of being afraid to get hurt and afraid to make a mistake and afraid to, then you're never going to become who you're best, because you can't put your foot on the gas when you have your foot on the brakes. You just can't do that. So you've got to take your foot off the brake in order to go forward. And I just love Jack Canfield's analogy there, and the lean into it. I use that a lot. You got to drop your chin and lean into it. Becoming yourself is hard work. People think I'm crazy for waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but you know what? I really kind of look at the time of my life and where I'm at right now and where I want to go. And I know that I need to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I need to be getting my head straight, and I need to be pushing. I'm in a push mode right now. And bad economy or not, we were just the best economy. Now it's the worst economy. You just can't allow your goals to be tied up in what the rest of the world is doing, or else you'll just never do anything. So those are some of the things that came up. I'm gonna see if there's anything. Oh, be accountable. We're gonna close with that one. Whenever I am disturbed, I am responsible. I am responsible for my life. It's nobody's fault. It's nobody's. You can't blame yourself or blame anybody else. There's a difference between like being accountable and blaming yourself or blaming others, right? Being accountable says, this is my responsibility. My life and me becoming who I want to be is my responsibility. I'm responsible for making that happen. I'm responsible every day for becoming the woman that God put me here to be. And if I drop the ball, I'm responsible, So those are my thoughts today about becoming your best. And, I think that I'm on my way. I know you are too. We're always on our way. No matter where you are in the continuum of stuff, you're always on your way to becoming your best. And you just can't give up. My dad in the back of my head as I use his pen, right? And here's my dad's ashes that are right here beside my desk. I know it might be morbid to some of you, but these are my dad's ashes. And my father used to always say to me, Michelle, don't give up. Don't give up till the miracle happens. Don't quit till the miracle happens, So for those of you that are out there right now and your business is tanking and you're having to regroup and restructure and reset and recalibrate and redesign, okay. All right. So you're doing that. I'm doing that. We're all doing that. Don't let it stop you. You had a thought in January when you made your resolutions that this was going to be your best year yet. And I did too. And so let's continue to move in that direction. You know, what's the worst that happened? We learn a couple lessons so that next year is the best year. I mean, that's the worst that's going to happen, right? Or we just show up and be our best, as best right now in the moment, and that's all we get. And that's really more than most people get, right? So I don't know. There's my story today. I'm going to sign out of here. I'm going to go over and get Pat Gillum from My Sister's Sisterhood Extravaganza. She had impromptu accepted my invitation to come on Relentless Talk Radio today. And then after that is Shar McCready. So I'm going to sign out of here and I'll be right back. Okay.